I'm Tom Ziska, and this is the Fox 26 Crime Files. It was a week ago the manhunt began in San Jacinto County for the man investigators say killed 5 people, including a young boy. Just 4 days later in Montgomery County, there was an arrest. Francisco Oropeza was found hiding in a home's closet underneath a pile of laundry. A viewer captured this video of him being led away in handcuffs. This Crime Files takes a look back at the killings, the capture, and what we've learned since. Here's Fox 26's Natalie He in San Jacinto County.
Well, one local organization was supposed to have their annual fundraiser this evening, but instead they opted to cancel the event and host a prayer vigil for the victims instead. They say this mass shooting has shaken the entire community.
Be with the families, Lord God, that are going through, Lord God, for this tragic event that is happening.
They're here in San Jacinto County, their family. We're a county with 28,000 people. We take care of our own. If they're in the county, they're family.
In lieu of their annual fundraiser, San Jacinto County Democrats held a prayer vigil for the 5 people who authorities say were shot and killed by their intoxicated neighbor, execution style. Investigators have now identified the victims as 25-year-old Sonia Argentina Guzman, 21-year-old Diana Velasquez Alvarado, 31-year-old Julissa Molina Rivera, 18-year-old Jose Jonathan Casares, and 8-year-old Daniel Enrique Lasso Guzman. Those who knew the family from Honduras were heartbroken to learn the tragic news.
And shocked and sad, because I did know the people the victims. It's heartbreaking, because I used to see him every day walk to the bus stop.
The gunman, authorities identified as 38-year-old Francisco Oropeza, remains on the loose as dozens of local, state, and federal law enforcement officers work around the clock to arrest him.
That's the kind of thing we just don't see in San Jacinto County, so to say it has shaken the community would be a dramatic understatement.
San Jacinto County Sheriff Greg Capers said Oropeza was shooting an AR-15 outside his home around 11:30 p.m. Friday when his next-door neighbors asked him to stop because their baby was sleeping. Instead, deputies say Oropeza went on a shooting spree and hasn't been seen since.
The fact that it was the type of gun that it was, we should not be allowed, everybody should not be allowed to have those type of weapons.
Here we have another case of where it's easier to get a machine gun than a fishing license. And we continue to see these tragedies across the United States, kids dying.
Better is achievable, good is no longer good enough. That we as a people have to continue to stand together to make change, because if not, it could be your little girl, it could be your little boy that's gone, or your family member that's gone.
Authorities say that suspect still on the loose tonight. At this point, authorities have decided to widen the search for his whereabouts. If you know anything about where he could be, you are urged to contact the FBI. From San Jacinto County, Natalie He, Fox 26 News.
And it was the very next day when Fox 26's Shelby Rose spoke with 2 of the survivors.
A Friday night spent with friends and family turned into something Jefferson Rivera and Wilson Garcia never imagined. Watching their family members die at the hands of a gunman who lived just next door.
This tragedy that unfolded, he had no right. We never offended him. We never disrespected him.
Francisco Oropeza was allegedly drunk and shooting an AR-15 outside of his home near Cleveland, Texas. Garcia says he asked him to stop because a child inside was scared. The unthinkable happened next.
I told my wife to go inside because he had loaded the gun.
Oropeza forced himself inside their home, first turning his weapon on Garcia's wife, Sonia.
That's when my friend told me to run. Sonia is dead. You have 2 kids, run. We will take care of ourselves. So that's when I went through the window.
Garcia returned a short time later, only to see Oropeza still inside.
That's when the suspect shot at me. He shot at me 5 times behind my house. When he didn't catch me, he returned to gun them down again and shot them on the head.
Then the gun was turned on Rivera.
I looked to my left and he was pointing his gun at me. He told me, "I was looking for you. I'm going to kill you."
After throwing a machete at Oropeza, both men were able to run to safety. Now Rivera and Garcia are left to mourn the loss of their wives. Garcia also losing his 8-year-old child.
The 5 people died. Diana and Julissa died covering their children. They died defending their children.
And Oropeza is still on the run, which is terrifying for those who survived this tragedy.
I'm scared because he can come back and look for us, but we're hoping that police do their job and arrest him.
The FBI says hundreds of law enforcement officers from over a dozen agencies are actively searching for Oropeza, and he's considered armed and dangerous. Reporting in San Jacinto County, Shelby Rose, Fox 26 News.
The community of Cleveland has been shaken by those killings. Fox 26's Gabby Hart was there for a prayer vigil for the victims.
Emotions ran high at Northside Elementary School in Cleveland, Texas, Sunday evening. 8-year-old Daniel Enrique Lasso, a student at the school, was one of 5 people gunned down execution style by his next-door neighbor late Friday night.
It just breaks my heart.
School staff, students, parents, and members of the community stood together praying for the family now ripped apart by this tragedy.
Whether you're black, brown, white, whatever, we need to get together with the community. And the more we can show love, compassion with one another, I believe we can be a better thing for us.
You took somebody's life that's not even, he's not even going to be able to grow up to be nobody because he took his life.
Gabby Hart reporting. As the manhunt continued, Natalie He stayed on the story, learning more about those victims.
On day 3 of the search for accused mass murderer, 38-year-old Francisco Oropeza, dozens of law enforcement officers from local, state, and federal agencies spent Monday zeroing in on 2 separate potential sightings of Oropeza in Montgomery County. First, authorities canvassed a dumping site near Highway 105 East and Security Landfill Road in Cleveland around 11:20 a.m. Then, 3.5 hours later, around 2:45, came another tip of his whereabouts at Crockett Martin near FM 2090 in Conroe. The massive manhunt prompted nearby schools to enter lockdown mode, but so far the FBI says Oropeza is still on the loose.
Each day we have a moment of silence. Today's moment of silence obviously was a little more heartfelt.
Over at Northside Elementary, classmates of 8-year-old Daniel Enrique Lasso, who was one of 5 people shot and killed Friday, returned to school, greeted with a growing memorial near the front entrance. Cleveland ISD says extra law enforcement and counselors were available on campus to help kids struggling with the loss of their friend.
The feeling that I'm most painful for is the hurt and the void that these students have. Many of them played soccer with him. Many of them rode the same bus that he did. They were very close. We have a tight-knit community in Cleveland.
As the community continues to mourn the violent killings of Daniel and his family, immigration rights group Vigil is criticizing Governor Greg Abbott and San Jacinto County Sheriff Greg Capers for their handling of the case.
We have seen already twice, one by Governor Abbott and one by the sheriff's office, is them talking about specifically the little boy's immigration status. And to us, it's just very callous. It's just a way to kind of cover themselves politically. People may be afraid to come forward. People may be afraid if they know something to say something out of fear that their immigration status may also be put in jeopardy.
Investigators chased down reports of several suspect sightings in the days after the shootings. More from Gabby Hart.
Who's going to come out in the middle of the road doing this?
Yeah.
And hollering, screaming at you, stop, stop.
David Ludwig lives near FM 2090 and Crockett Martin Road in Montgomery County. He says around 9:30 Monday morning, he spotted a man matching the description of 38-year-old Francisco Oropeza, trying to flag down vehicles near the intersection.
I couldn't do it. I wasn't going to stop.
Oropeza is accused of shooting and killing 5 of his neighbors, including a child. It happened on Friday night after they asked him to stop firing his assault-style weapon in his yard because children were trying to sleep. On Monday afternoon, the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department and a tactical team did an extensive manhunt in the area where people reported spotting Oropeza. Officials locked down several schools in the area, but ultimately came up empty-handed.
It's pretty scary. My kids aren't allowed to go anywhere right now, and we live in a field, but it's pretty open, but they don't get to go anywhere. They don't even get to play outside until the guy's found.
I'm not going to sleep well tonight. I want to make sure they find him tonight. I hope they do. I pray they do.
Are you guys going to be extra cautious?
I got my pistol ready.
You got your pistol ready?
Yeah, sure do.
Yeah.
Yeah, got my pistol ready, and I got 2 chihuahuas over there. They'll let me know if somebody's prowling, and but I'll shoot if I have to, you know.
Digital billboards went up across the region on day 4 of the search, just hours before Oropeza's eventual capture. Here's Natalie Heat.
On day 4 of the search, the FBI has now plastered accused mass murderer and wanted fugitive 38-year-old Francisco Oropeza's picture on digital billboards across the Houston area and on large banners across the Cleveland area. The alerts reminding the public there's up to an $80,000 reward for any information that could lead to Oropeza's capture. Texas DPS troopers were seen leaving the victim's house on Walters Road in Cleveland on Tuesday morning. Late Friday night, authorities say Oropeza was intoxicated when he shot and killed 5 of his next-door neighbors, execution style, with an AR-15.
I started hearing the neighbor screaming for help, screaming, saying his family was inside.
A woman who lived across the street from both Oropeza and the victims says she hasn't been staying in the neighborhood during the search, afraid the suspect could return to his home.
He had a 10-year-old kid. His kid played with the 8-year-old kid, and that's just, it's crazy. How are you going to do that? You have a kid that resembles this kid that you just killed. How do you not have a heart?
Oropeza is a Mexican national who's been in the U.S. illegally for more than 14 years. ICE officials say Oropeza has been deported 4 times before, the first time on March 17, 2009, then again in September of that year. In January 2012, authorities say he was convicted of a DWI in Montgomery County and was deported again. Most recently, ICE officials say they encountered him and removed him from the U.S. in July of 2016.
The day after the capture, the Montgomery County neighborhood where the accused killer was found was still reeling. Here's Fox 26's Dominic Keith.
Yeah, it was scary. It felt kind of like in the movies.
But what happened here was all too real. U.S. Marshals, state police, sheriff's deputies, FBI, and Border Patrol agents, some with their guns drawn, swarmed this road here in Conroe and arrested wanted fugitive, accused murderer Francisco Oropeza early Tuesday evening, who was said to be hiding underneath a pile of clothes in this house.
I just didn't even know it was going to be across the street from me. Wow. Yeah. I was really, really scared.
I mean, what if he still got the gun and, just keep on shooting people?
That's what your thoughts were when this was happening?
Yeah, I mean, everybody was scared.
Oropeza's common-law wife, Divamara Nava, was also arrested and appeared here in court.
You are charged with hindering the apprehension of a fugitive. That is a 3rd-degree felony, carries with it 2 to 10 years in prison.
Nava appears to wipe tears at one point as she stood in front of the judge.
She admitted to delivering a message from Oropeza in person to Oropeza's cousins who live in Conroe per his request. The message from him was him requesting assistance to get him to Mexico. Cousins advised that they would not help him.
Francisco Oropeza was quickly arraigned on 5 counts of murder and given a $7.5 million bond. Gabby Hart breaks down the investigation.
It's really been a long week for Montgomery County and San Jacinto law enforcement. Oropeza finally in custody. However, there are still just as many questions as there are answers and a lot of moving parts to this investigation. We are learning that there could be more charges and upgraded charges even in the days to come. 38-year-old Francisco Oropeza is in custody after a 4-day manhunt. Oropeza is accused of shooting and killing 5 of his neighbors late Friday night in Cleveland, Texas. Officers spent all of Saturday, all of Sunday, and Monday searching homes and combing through wooded areas in San Jacinto County and Montgomery County. Officers captured him on Tuesday evening inside of a home in Cut and Shoot in Montgomery County. He was hiding under a pile of clothes. Now, he is now charged with 5 counts of murder. And prosecutors say there is a possibility that we could see those charges upgraded to capital murder. Officers also arrested his domestic partner, 53-year-old Divimara Lamar Nava. Now, she's accused of helping him hide, and she's being held currently on a $250,000 bond in Montgomery County. Now, she appeared before a judge Wednesday afternoon. We're told that Oropeza is also currently on suicide watch.
He said very little. He basically said, I see, I see, I see.
And Oropeza is being held on a $7.5 million bond. The district attorney's office here in San Jacinto saying that they will be presenting this case to a grand jury within the next 90 days. Of course, as we learn more, so will you, right here and on Fox26Houston.com. For now, I am in San Jacinto County. Gabby Hart, Fox 26 News.
Natalie He ended the week learning more about Oropeza's past and the women accused of helping him on the run the 4 days.
38-year-old Francisco Oropeza and his partner, 53-year-old Divimara Nava, remain behind bars Thursday. Oropeza is charged with 5 counts of murder in San Jacinto County, and Nava is accused of helping him hide from authorities in Montgomery County. Officials say both are Mexican nationals who were living in the U.S. illegally.
It's my understanding that she has an ICE hold, which means that Immigration and Customs Enforcement has a detainer on her, so she even in order to bond out for that would have to resolve those issues prior to being released.
Documents show the couple share a complicated history together. In June of last year, Nava attempted to file a protective order against Oropeza for her and their son. In her own writing, Nava claims Oropeza punched and kicked her and, quote, pounded my head on the driveway gravel, tried to get me in his truck, and threatened to tie me down and drag me until I die. Nava claims the abuse happened in front of their young son and said she sustained a broken nose, broken rib, skull fracture, bruises, and a black eye. But the DA's office says she later changed her mind.
Nothing ever really came of the protective order other than the fact that it was generated.
The records also show that the address Nava previously listed as her home belonged to an aunt of Oropeza. It's the same home where he was found hiding from law enforcement this week. Domingo Castilla, a friend of Oropeza, was at the scene arrested for marijuana, but authorities say he's also being investigated for helping Oropeza escape and being in the U.S. illegally.
He apparently is also the subject of a federal investigation.
Private funerals for the victims are next in the case, along with the decision on whether prosecutors will charge Oropeza with capital murder. That's this week's Fox 26 Crime Files.